in October of 92, I had a stroke. And so that kind of messed up the plans from there.
Well, hi there, everybody, and welcome to Bold Carnivore. Glad to see you here, and I hope you enjoy the show. Today we have Dave Mack on. Howdy, Dave.
Hey, how you going? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, Matthew.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's fantastic. So, Dave, I watch a lot of your videos, and I'm always interested in what content you're putting out, and you're always very informative and fun. And I thank you very much for helping me look toward the carnivore lifestyle, and it's been quite an adventure. So thank you for that.
Cheers.
Would you mind telling everybody about your story?
Sure. So I'm 48 years old, and most of my life I've kind of suffered in one way or the other from being, overweight, unhappy with my appearance, body pain, like back pain or leg pain, things like that. And about 14 months ago now, I went to see my doctor, and my doctor had some bad news for me. He told me that I had pre-diabetes, and that I also had to stop drinking because it was about to get serious. And I kind of knew the drinking thing, but I just decided, well, I've got to do something, because having the doctor say something like that to me, especially about the drinking, I thought, what's it going to be like if I come back and see the doctor in a year and he says, well, this is getting out of control now, or he's got some bad news about my liver or so, whatever it is. And so I decided I've got to take control of this. And I didn't really know how best to get control other than a diet that I've done in the past. And a diet that I've done in the past that seemed to give me self-control and seemed to get me in a position where I made better decisions about things was keto. And so I decided that I was going to try keto. I was going to give keto a go and see if that would help me control the constant snacking and the drinking and stuff like that. And so I just immediately went keto. I decided I'm going to give away the alcohol, give away the snacking. And fortunately, through keto and also changing a few things about my habits, I was able to kick the snacking, kick the alcohol. It was difficult, but combined with changing my habits, like not walking past the liquor shop, not walking past the convenience store on the way home where I could easily go in and buy alcohol to drink on the train on the way home or something. That helped a lot. And being on keto, I had the self-control to kind of and was feeling better about myself, where I was able to just go, know what, I'm not going to go in there. And so that happened. But a week, 2 weeks into doing keto, one thing that I was noticing is I was spending much more time in the bathroom than I wanted to. And so I would eat, and very soon after that, I would find myself in the bathroom. And I hadn't experienced this before, but I was a bit concerned about it because I thought I don't want to, fix one thing and cause another problem. So I started kind of searching around on the internet, on YouTube specifically, for what might be a problem. And I found some videos, and one specifically by Ken Berry, talking about how vegetables are not necessarily good for us, and they contain a lot of chemicals that will upset your stomach and cause problems. One of those being diarrhea. And so some of the worst ones he listed were the ones that I was eating, which were nightshade vegetables, because I was eating them thinking, well, they tell me I need to get my vitamin C, and I'm not getting the vitamin C from the bacon or the eggs or the beef that I'm eating, so I need to mix in some vegetables. And of course, they were the ones he was saying were the worst for me. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to cut these out for a few days and see what happens. Cut them out, and it all just went away. And I've been carnivore ever since. So here I am, 14 months later, feeling better than I ever have.
You're looking fantastic too.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah. You got maybe, I think, one picture on Instagram and you look all muscly and ripped, man. That's just fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not very good on Instagram. I kind of put one post up occasionally, and that's it. Yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about earlier in life though? Like when you were younger, say in childhood, how did you eat when you were a child?
That's a very good question. So I have always had quite I would call it now an addictive personality. Um, as a child, I would have called it just I like sweet things, but yeah, I think it's an addictive personality. And basically, as a kid, the food that like mum cooked and whatever, it was okay. By kind of today's diet standards, it was probably excellent, but it still wasn't. It still wasn't the best, you know. Like it still had fried food sometimes and things like that. But you know, relative to today's meals that kids are probably eating, it was awesome. Um, but I would finish school and I'd be going home. Like my dad would often pick me up after school, and because mum worked in a hospital at night at the time, and so dad would pick me and my brother up after school, and we'd be on the way home, and I just remember always, it was like every night, and I feel so sorry for my father when I think about this. Every night I was like, can we stop at the shop and buy some candy? Can we stop at the shop and buy some candy? And it was just constant, you know. Oh, come on, we did it yesterday. Oh, come on, you know. And you know, as much as I felt sorry for him, he was also complicit because he should have been saying no as well, and he didn't. He would always just give in because he was tired from work, and he was probably like, I'm sick of listening to this, and probably, you know, just took us in anyway. And probably as a child, I knew eventually he was going to get sick of listening to this. So, you know, so I mean, every day I was eating sugary food as well. So yeah, it was terrible, terrible diet, really.
Can you give me an example of one of the things that your parents would cook that you would find sugary enough for your particular proclivities?
Oh, that they would cook. They wouldn't really cook anything. Occasionally, we'd have like something like French toast for breakfast or something, but they wouldn't really cook something that was sugary enough. It would all be supplementary stuff, like my whining for candy. You know, there was all that kind of stuff. You know, take me to the shop. I want to buy candy.
Looking back, do you think that had any poor effects on your health even at that time?
Probably yes. I mean, because even as a teenager, I remember as a teenager, I wasn't happy with my health at all. And you know, one of the things I haven't actually talked about this on a podcast for at all, um, was that as a teenager, or as a actually before I was a teenager, so probably from about 10 years old onwards, um, when I was at home on my own, like if my parents are both at work and um, I was just watching TV at home or something like that, I would just eat bread constantly, right? So, I mean, I guess effectively I was eating sugar by doing that, right? So just like I'd sit and I'd go through half a loaf of white bread, you know, thin sliced white bread, like what's it called in the US, Wonder Bread or something,
Yeah,
like that
Wonder
kind of
Bread.
half a loaf of that, and I would just, and all the while, all through my teens, I was conscious that I wasn't what you would call fat, but I always had this stomach, like it was effectively a beer belly in the making. And I was always unhappy about it, but I just never knew what to do. And of course, back in 1991, 92, no one was talking about, or very few people were talking about, well, actually, that's carbohydrate, that's sugar that's causing that.
Yeah, looking back when I was about that age, we never heard anything about carbohydrates bad, or no, because they were in the middle of the low fat craze right then, and real big pushing into the seed oils and stuff. So yeah, we never heard about that. I can
Yeah,
appreciate
and
that.
of course, Atkins was around at that time, but I don't think Atkins had gone to the point where there was a massive following. It was very fringe at that stage. So I think no one really took it seriously.
That's true. They didn't. I can remember a lot of people, in fact, in our own uh, sphere, that would have made fun of the Atkins diet, and they would have been mortified if you told them, "I'm on the Atkins." They'd be like, "Oh, you're gonna die! You're gonna die!" We did actually try the Atkins diet for some time within our family. It was interesting. A lot of bacon. It was good when we could afford it. you know, uh, I I found a love for grapefruit in that. You know, I don't
Oh,
like it
well,
these days, but at that time, grapefruit was like, oh, that's cool.
that
So
was
what
kind
about
of.
downstream? Well,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what about downstream from that? I mean, your eating habits got poor. You ate a bunch of bread. You start to swell up, and now we know that's probably visceral fat building up.
Mm.
What happened because of that?
So, I mean, it just got worse. So, um, I left high school early. So basically, the timeline is that, so 1992, I was in my final year of high school, and I had I'd always been an A+ student through high school, and I got to the last year of high school, and I was just feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing this for anymore. Like, I'd kind of lost the mojo for school at that point. And so I started looking around for a full-time job. I'd always been interested in computers, and I'd been programming since I was in grade 4. And so I just felt like, if I can find an IT job now, I don't care about finishing high school and going to university and all that kind of thing. And so I started looking around, and maybe 3 months into my last year of high school, I found a full-time job with an IT company. And so I just left high school. And then, I don't know, 4 or 5 months following that, in October of 92, I had a stroke. And so that kind of messed up the plans from there. And so I found myself, the next year, basically year, was hospital and recovery and all that kind of thing. And the aneurysm was just caused by a congenital weakening in the wall of an artery. So there was a weakening in the wall of the artery. It's just been the blood's kind of pulsing against that weakening, and it's just getting more like a balloon, like a blowout in a tire over time. And then I just went to bed that night, and that was the night where it went, look, I can't take this pressure anymore. Bang. And so while I was asleep, the blood just rushed into my head, into my brain. Fortunately, I've got unusually thick blood, so it clotted very quickly. And I mean, the unusually thick blood may be part of the problem, but it saved my life after the bleed.
Wow. So were there permanent health effects due to that?
Yeah, so my right side is affected. Like my right arm is weaker. I limp, and generally there's less expression on the right side of my face, or it kind of gives this kind of crooked impression. But since being on carnivore, one major thing that has happened is I've seen improvements in that regard. So, um, just very, very gradually over time, I've started to get more strength into my right side, and I'm not limping quite as much, and my balance is better. And for the first time in my life, I'm actually feeling like I want to really practice getting more strength back into my right side. You know, like for example, if I can stand on one leg no problem and kind of lift my body up and down on my left leg, but if I do it on my right leg, I'm going to fall over and hit the whatever's sitting on the right hand side of me. So, you know, it's the first time that I've ever felt like, okay, well, I can actually probably start training and get myself into a position where, you know, I can balance properly on my right leg. So, after the stroke had been dealt with and I'd had operations and so forth, I went back to work, and work was going okay, but I ended up for personal reasons involving a girlfriend at the time and whatever, I moved interstate. And so moving interstate meant I had to find a new job. And I was very, very lucky. I found another IT job in a state where there, well, in a city in a state where there tend not to be many IT jobs. So I was really lucky. And that job turned out to be a job that required me to do a lot of international travel. And they asked me to go and set up an office in England, and then following that, to go and set up an office in Hong Kong, and then South Africa, and then LA, and then New Zealand. And so they were sending me all around the world, which was great. But and I was only 20, 21 at this stage. Yeah. And as someone who's 20, 21, living with much older people who are also traveling for the same job, my days were just this blur of awful food and drinking. And so I would wake up and have, you know, breakfast would be something like toast and coffee, because I had to have coffee because the coffee was kind of part of the recovery from the hangover. And then, you know, lunch would be some takeout food, probably McDonald's or something. Subway is probably the best it would get. And then
Subway.
dinner was alcohol and whatever rubbish came with the alcohol, you know, potato chips or maybe something warm occasionally. And so that was over a period of about 3.5 years. And so I think that kind of really contributed to the beginnings of my beer belly, if you want to call it that, my carbohydrate belly, and, you know, planted the seeds for becoming an alcoholic. Because prior to that, I hadn't drunk very much at all in my life.
About how much did you weigh at the time?
Maybe it's between 70 to 80 kilos.
Hmm.
Yeah. At my heaviest, I've been about 90 kilos, which is what, 200 pounds?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
It's just shy of 200 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Hmm. And so, are you still doing the same job, or have you changed jobs?
No, not doing that anymore. So basically I did IT up until I moved to Japan. And now that I'm in Japan, I'm teaching English. So I had been so to take a step back, like before I moved to Japan, I was programming, and I was working for a bank. And when I decided to move to Japan, I handed in my resignation at the bank, and they said, we got this big project coming up. Um, if you go to Japan, would you mind just kind of still working for us from Japan? And this is 2006. And so I'm like one of the initial, the original remote workers. I was remote working before remote working was a thing. So for my first kind of 5 years in Japan, I was working from home, like remoting into my company in Melbourne, and yeah, just doing programming and help desk work via the web. Um, and while I was doing that, I was kind of concerned, like they made me switch to being contract rather than a full-time employee when I left the country, because obviously they want the option to let me go anytime. So I started looking for other part-time work in Japan as well, to kind of give me a little bit of security should the bank let me go. And then I just started English teaching from there.
When you say English teaching, what do you have in mind when you say English teaching? Because there's a broad swath of what that could mean.
English teaching in Japan is basically just conversation, like teaching conversation. Now, it might be to people who are complete beginners, and that will generally be children, and or teaching or practicing conversational English with false beginners, like your average salary man who hates English, doesn't use English because they don't like to, but they've got a lot of passive knowledge about vocab and grammar rules and stuff because they studied it for 3 or 4 years at school.
Mm.
I mean, and in Japan, most Japanese people have a better grasp of grammar than native speakers do. So
It surprised me to come here to Indonesia and find basically the same thing. There are a lot of people here who understand the way the rules of grammar are supposed to work, and they can, fire those off at you real fast. But in actual usage, they don't have it.
yeah. And the like other teachers will sometimes say to me things like, it's so embarrassing how they know more rules than I do. And I'm like, why? The reverse would be true for us. We would probably know more rules about Japanese than they do. It's the same with everyone's native language.
Yeah, because
You
we learn
just
it by nature and they learn it by the
yeah,
book. So
yeah, yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa. Dave, I am always thrilled when you put out a new video. And one of your videos you put out had a segment, very brief, where you said, well, Dave Mack recommends. And that made me interested to find a couple of pictures that you could look at and just give your quick recommendation off the cuff, what you think about each of these things. Now, not all of them come with a recommendation, so you're just gonna have to kind of wing it, but it'll be fun. You wanna
Okay,
give it a go?
sure, I'm up for it.
Okay.
Oh,
Dave recommends.
these are the 5 things you shouldn't ever eat.
Dave recommends.
If you want to clean the floor, then go with this.
Dave recommends.
That you throw those in the trash.
Dave recommends.
That you use that as a tennis ball.
Dave recommends.
That you keep that around to snack on whenever you're hungry.
Dave recommends.
You throw everything away but the meat. Oh, hang on. Is that plant-based one? Is that a fake meat one?
No, it's not. It's a regular burger.
Okay.
It does look like soy, but it's not. That was a regular burger. Okay, one more. Dave recommends.
That you use that to practice swimming. That was stupid.
Dave recommends.
That you clean your coins with this.
Dave recommends.
This is filler for your trash can.
Dave recommends.
For breakfast every morning.
Dave recommends.
Give that to a friend. Hang on. Give that to an enemy.
Give that to an enemy. Okay. Final one in the series. Dave recommends.
Use that to keep the door open.
Dave, I love your recommendations. Oh, that's great.
Oh, that was fun.
You should do a segment like that on your own show. That'd be great.
That's actually, yeah, a good. I like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I like that one. Throw everything but the meat away. That's
Yeah. But then I had to look at that and I thought the meat looks a bit too perfect. But like,
well,
I mean, that's how the
picture, so.
photo is set up. You know, they're trying to take the perfect photo. But these days, you know, a perfect beef burger looks like an impossible burger now, right?
Yeah, you got to wonder what they were doing with those beef burgers even before that.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite food that you can get in Japan?
Favorite food would have to be like it's going out to a teppanyaki restaurant and getting a really good steak.
Do they put sauces and stuff on that, or is it something you can make up for yourself?
They typically put it separate for you so you can kind of dip it in, right? They don't really add anything to the steaks when they're cooking it at a teppanyaki place. And you can ask, like the last one I went into, I just said, I don't want any garlic, I don't want any vegetables, no frills, nothing. I just want the steak. And they were quite happy to do that.
That's nice.
Hmm.
I can really appreciate the switch up there too, because one video I saw you talking about how you were in a presentation and you're just squeezing, hoping that you don't let one loose, and you can't trust the farts. You know, I'm like, I totally understand that. I mean, I really do. When I was eating that, it was bad.
I had so many bad experiences when I've been doing presentations training, and it's just like walking, like you know, like I was concealing something at an airport, and I like I was worried it was going to fall out, you know.
I really do know when if I eat a vegetable, right? It goes in looking like a vegetable, and by God, it comes out looking like a vegetable. I cannot digest certain things at all, you know. And I mean, like if I eat a piece of an apple, the chunks that it goes in as are the chunks that it comes out as. I don't know how many people turn around and look, but I mean, if you take the time to do the investigation, you're like, well, is this why I feel bad? Because I'm not getting anything from this food, you know? Corn, like that is an awesome example. It does not digest.
And you know, the thing is, people say, well, it's got all these fruits and vegetables, they've got so much vitamin C, they've got so much protein, so much this, that, the other, iron. But how bioavailable is it when it's obviously not even digesting?
Yeah. Now that I look back on it, I realize my body was just starving to death, you know? And that's why I couldn't gain muscle. And if I got an injury, it just compounded. I know how you must have felt. I mean, I really do. Even not to the degree that you felt, obviously, because of the stroke and everything, but man, losing all the strength in my left side was just terrifying.
And the trouble is, this happens to us, and generally we don't put it down to the food that we're eating. We generally just go, oh, well, I'm getting old. And that's what the doctor says as well. You know, this happens with age, and I just got to start taking medications now.
Now, going on to medications, they don't designed to make us better in any way. Not really. I mean, if you think about that, it's designed to enhance the doctor's profits and the profit margin of the pharmaceutical companies that design the drug, right?
Hmm.
Do you think that's accidental or by design?
I think this is the problem with money, really. I think, probably everything starts off with I mean, it's all money motivated, but things tend to start off with an ideal. You know, I can probably make a business out of this if I can solve this problem. If you go back to, when people were kind of mixing herbs and stuff, trying to solve problems, right? Um, the idea is I could maybe make a business out of it, but I want to help people. So I'm going to mix this up and see if it helps, you know? And things start off that way, but then it just gets bigger and bigger and it feeds on itself. And it's like, well, look how much money we made last year. And if we just were able to introduce one more drug we just get one more drug into our pipeline, can you imagine how much money we're going to be making in 10 years time? And just I'm not sure that I think it's just that money kind of corrupts the whole thing, and then everyone becomes an unwilling participant in it because everyone, like at a low level within an organization, they're all focused on just meeting their KPIs so they can get their bonus for the year or their pay rise for the year or their promotion. And so they'll do everything to meet their KPIs, and their KPIs are basically set up to do the best thing for the company, and the best thing for the company is not necessarily the best thing for you or I.
So tailored destruction on accident.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. But you would think with all the study and effort that goes into it, though, that people must know, at least someone somewhere would be actually relatively understanding and still choosing to go the other direction.
Yeah. Um, I mean, look, I'm sure there are people working in pharmaceutical companies that are part of the, I don't know, the Ozempic team or whatever, that are doing carnivore, that are on keto, and they probably know, well, you know, this, this is not the right way to do things. The way I'm eating means I never get sick, and the way I'm eating, means that I feel more energetic than I ever have, and I'm the healthiest looking member of this team, and blah blah blah. But someone like that is also going to be sitting there thinking, yeah, but I also need to keep my job. So if I start talking to everyone about how carnivore is the cure for all this, I'm going to get canned, or I'm going to get moved into another team, or, and potentially lose responsibilities and whatever.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Keeping your head down is a good way to stay employed.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
And I mean, thinking about it, based on the way, um, I culturally everywhere is different. I know that, but like if you just look at Japan, like a Japanese employee will never speak out against their company. Like will never take an opposing line to their company or anything like that. So like if it was, say, a pharmaceutical company in Japan, everyone's going to toe the line.
is that just a work ethic that's built into the Japanese system, or is that because people are genuinely worried about what might happen to their personal reputations?
No, it's a very much an ethical cultural thing. Like they, I don't think it comes down to they're worried about what would happen if they spoke out. Speaking out doesn't even enter their mind.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, if there was a Japanese whistleblower ever, I would be very surprised. And if there was, I mean, that's the kind of person that should be lauded because they're going against their whole culture by doing that. Like the Japanese have a saying, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. And, that's just the way the culture is. That starts at school. That starts in elementary school, you know, like there, no one kind of goes against the grain. They have a an expression in Japan, shikataganai or shoganai, and that basically means there's nothing you can do about it, you know. And so it's like, oh well, I may as well just deal with this situation as it is, kind of thing. And kids here say that, you know, like, for example, okay guys, it's the end of recess, let's go, you got to go to class, stop playing ball. And it's like, oh, shikatagana, and they go to class. That would never happen in Australia. It'd be like, get stuffed, I'm playing football, I'll come in when I'm ready, you know. It's
Yeah, that's
yeah.
an interesting point too, because the way that different cultures approach situations and how we allow situations to be approached by our young is very different.
Mm.
Dave, I wanted to get your thoughts on Zahana Samsonova. She's a Russian influencer who was vegan. And I have to put this in the past tense because sadly she has passed on.
Ah, okay. So my feelings on that are kind of, it's kind of, I guess, a limited kind of comment, because to be honest, I haven't read any articles about it, and I haven't seen any videos about it either. I've only kind of seen headlines here, there, and everywhere. Um, but of course, it's very sad that she's died. Um, and it just feels like, I mean, this is really advertising that you probably can't get adequate nutrient. Again, I haven't read the article, so I'm assuming she's died of some nutritional issue. It just shows that you can't get enough nutrition from a plant-based diet.
Yeah, the articles are all pretty much in agreement that she was subsisting on mainly fruit and juices and from exotic plants that honestly wouldn't have been in her ancestral diet in any
Mm.
way. And seems she has died of malnutrition.
Yeah. You know, I understand that there is an ethical reason some people don't want to eat meat. Um, but at the end of the day, if you're not, you need to be getting nutrition. And when you're starting to look like, I mean, as part of the headlines, I had seen pictures of her and she didn't look healthy. She was very, very thin. And, you know, when you're starting to look thin like that, there's obviously something wrong. There's obviously something going wrong nutritionally, and it needs to be addressed. And it's actually, again, I haven't read anything, but it's a shame that no doctor, if she was in touch with any doctors, no one said to her, look, you need to be doing something. You need to we need to get you into hospital and get some vitamins and minerals into your body. Yeah. So it's tragic that it's at this point, you know. But yeah,
In
I'm not sure what
situations
else
like
to
that,
say.
in situations like that, I mean, especially regarding something like diet, do you think that there's some kind of a confirmation bias that keeps us locked into our particular way?
Probably yes. Um, you know, especially like for an influencer, like someone who's been on YouTube. I don't know how long she was on YouTube or Instagram or whatever it is she was on, but assuming she's got like a squillion followers and she's really popular and whatever, there's going to be a cost for her, a big cost probably, for her to turn around and go, you know what, I am I made a mistake, or you know, there it almost there's not even a incentive for her to begin thinking about like that, you know, because she's not thinking that potentially she's going to die. But yeah, for anyone that has built up a big following, you know, I think there's everyone, including people, you know, like us, we need to always be kind of still open to the idea that we are not going to have all the answers, because we want to make sure that we're entertaining all the options out there in case you know, we could be getting more nutrition than we actually are, or we're not getting enough nutrition and we should be supplementing with something else.
So if it came up to you and somebody said, Dave, you've been doing a great job for yourself, but you've been doing it wrong, and here's the reason why, and you've got to make this change right now, what do you think about that?
I think it depends on who came up to me and gave me that information first. Like if it was someone who's, you know, just been throwing food at me, or making me listen to pigs squeal or something like that, screaming at me because they're a rabid, you know, a rabid vegan, then probably I'm not going to be into entertaining their ideas. But if it was someone more moderate, and I could feel they're actually talking to me with my best interests at heart, the same as I would be trying to talk to someone else about the carnivore diet with their best interests at heart, not because I'm trying to push anything on them, then I'd be open to listening to them, and I'd consider what they said, and I'd be more than willing to go and do more research on that, and consider, like, for example, if they said you're deficient in this particular vitamin and you can only get this vitamin from, or mineral from, eating this particular food that's not carnivore, then I'd look into it and be willing to entertain the idea.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, Dave, any parting wisdom?
Look, I would say to anyone out there that's watching this video, that hasn't been on carnivore yet, hasn't tried it, maybe you've done keto, but you haven't done carnivore, give it a try. It's something that you want to try just for 30, 60, and 90 days. And if you try it, there's close to 100% chance you'll never go back, because you have never felt this good. And as someone who's done keto a lot over the years, I know how good you can feel on keto, but you never feel that good as you do on carnivore when you do that. So I recommend to anyone that's watching, give carnivore a try. And Matthew, thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you for joining us, Dave.
Cheers.
You're a fantastic fellow. All right. Be bold, everybody.